Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the Roaming Prepper, and thank you for joining me again today. Uh, Today, I want to talk about something a little different. We've had so much noise about the war in Eastern Europe and Taiwan and Ukraine, and there's so many little specific scenarios going on that I think it's making people very frazzled because they don't know what to prepare for, what to react to. I instead want to back up and basically focus on how do we get the best bang for our buck, for our money, for our time, and for our effort. I have a little methodology for doing it. I'm not going to go into it super technically, but I'm going to give you guys an overview of how I'm trying to think about it going into 2023 when we know there's certain things going to happen. I'll be right back, and then let's talk about how I'm thinking of these problems. All right, welcome back, everyone, and thank you for joining me once again. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will tell you I do appreciate all of your feedback, positive and negative. The viewers make the channel fun. I do this largely to help people because I've seen so many people who made such terrible decisions during disasters that I've been involved in or I've tried to help in one capacity or another. So it's refreshing when I get to interact with a community that actually wants to help each other for the most part. We do have some trolls. Some of them are fun. Some of them are not. Most of the ones I find that are not, I've kicked off the channel. So there's my scenario. Kick trolls off immediately so they don't ruin your channel. But in any case, thank you all for your support as always as we get toward the end of the year. In light of my workload and the holidays and everything else, you're probably going to see a little less of me going into the Christmas, New Year, Thanksgiving, but I will still be out there and I will still be posting. But today I want to talk about something. I want to back away from all the chaos, all the "we're gonna die," although that's funny as hell. If you haven't seen Hudson Valley's "we're all gonna die" videos, you got to watch them. Or off the walls, a-hole videos, and that I can't even describe those. You just got to go watch them because half the time everyone's laughing. So, but anyway, I want to go to best bang for the buck. Let's talk about that. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, it's obviously simple, right? You want to get the most value for the dollar or time, hour, effort spent. So a lot of people try to look at scenarios, right? They say, oh, I got to prepare for World War III. I got to prepare for zombies. I got to prepare for riots. I got to prepare for Antifas and Nazis. And there's all these little scenarios all around their head. And what winds up happening is they get overload, psychological overload, and then they freeze up. They don't know what the hell to prepare for. And so ultimately, they don't do a good job at preparing for any of it because they're freaked out. So what you need to do is back away. And you can even do this if you're more experienced, and I'm by no means an expert, right? But you back away, and this is also a corporate thing, a business thing to do. You back away from the situation and say, okay, you got two things you got to look at. What is your likely scenario? And then what are the categories of things you need to have? So why do I break it down like that? Because not every scenario is worth preparing for. And you want to focus on the categories you need, but a lot of categories apply to a multitude of situations. So I'll give you an example. First, I would recommend focusing on your 80%, what I would call the 80-20. You could use the 80-20 rule, which is a business rule, the Pareto rule, where 80% of the things are likely to happen, 20% are very uncommon kind of thing. So if you look at the 80% rule, you want to look at the things that are most likely to happen 80-90% of the time in your area versus the 10-20%, the less likely, that may be more catastrophic, but they don't happen often. For example, if you live on the Louisiana, Florida, Texas coast, hurricane season happens every year. We get hurricanes every year. Okay, they don't always hit Texas. They don't always hit Florida, although lately they've all hit Florida. But anyway, I digress. Um, they, but it's an occurrence. It's like Christmas. It happens every year. It's not a surprise. You shouldn't be like, oh my God, this hurricane season. No, it happens every year. You should understand that. That is probably an 80% scenario for the coast. Flooding, hurricanes, and the associated tornadoes, which are less. I would actually throw the tornadoes in the 20%. So you got those 80% scenarios that 80, 90% of the time they can and have happened in your area. So that is what you should focus on first, the 80, 90% scenarios, not all the weird stuff in the 20%. It doesn't mean you ignore them. I'll come back to the 20% later. So you've got the 80%. Let's say it's hurricanes and floods and blackouts, right? Now, I mentioned earlier scenarios and categories. So that's your scenario. Your big scenarios on the coast of Texas, Louisiana would be hurricanes, flooding, and the subsequent blackouts, right? And food shortages that go with it. Okay, so what do you need for that kind of situation? Well, then it becomes real simple, right? Well, you need food because the grocery stores will lose power and all the food will spoil, or you just can't get in because they close the store. Food, potable water, water for hygiene, batteries, lights, maybe propane and a lantern, and a way to cook. And again, here's where we place the 80-20 rule. What are the ones you'll need 80, 90% of the time? Flashlights, batteries, food, water, first aid kits, right? 20% or less of the time, firearms, a canoe, a drone, whatever. So focus on that. And again, it's the 80-20 rule. So backtracking, you're on the coast of Louisiana. Your 80% scenarios will be flooding and hurricanes. The 80 to 90% things you'll need in every flood and hurricane are food, water, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You kind of see what I'm doing here. I'm taking the most likely scenarios and then taking the most needed categories to cover those scenarios. And there I start prepping. Like I was saying, you take the 80% likelihood of something happening, the 80% to 90% scenarios. In this case, you're on the coast of the US, hurricanes, floods, and blackouts. Then you take the 80% items that you need in that scenario. The food, the water, the first aid, lighting, a way to cook, etc. And that's what you focus on. Now you note if you've taken all these various scenarios, you've broken it down to 2 that are the most likely, hurricanes and floods and blackouts, 3. That's your 80% likelihood of happening. And those 3 usually happen together. Right. Now the less likely you'll need, pews, a canoe, a drone, now if you have them, are they great? Absolutely, because if your area is flooded and you have a canoe, you drive to the end of the water, put the canoe in the water, and you can paddle across. But chances are you won't need that right away, if at all. Could it come in handy? Absolutely. But why do you want to spend $500 or $800 on a canoe when you could take those same $500, $800 and put them toward food, batteries, clothing, like water boots so you don't step on things and hurt yourself in the water, stuff like that. So that's where you start using that 80-20 rule. Think of the 80%, the things that will happen 80 to 90% of the time, focus on those scenarios, and then focus furthermore on the things you'll need in 80 to 90% of the times when those things happen. Again, and you're going to start noticing, for instance, I said food, water, cooking, lighting, and say transport. Those same things apply to a multitude of other things. So you focus on those. Now, how do you break it down even further? Well, then you don't try to prepare for all of it at once. What you do, if you get paid every 2 weeks, for example, every payday you pick a subject, or every payday week you pick a subject. You get paid on Friday and you say, okay, I'm going to assign X dollars and I'm going to focus this week on food. And you go and you get canned food, you put stuff in Mylar, mason jars, whatever, you go canning, and then drop it. The next payday, you say, okay, I'm going to work on lighting. So you get a lantern, some propane, a few flashlights, batteries, put them away, inventory, put them away, test them, and drop it. Don't go looking for lighting and then stop and say, oh, I'm going to buy more rice, because you'll get all screwed up. That's your subject. Now, I know the temptation, if you're just starting, you want to get a little of each, and that's not bad, right? Get a few things here, grab a flashlight, get a little spread at first. But as you start to build your inventory, don't try to do it all at once every time you walk out the door. You'll either go over budget or you'll get frustrated. Start with food, then go to lighting, then go to a good first aid kit and tourniquets, etc. Then maybe prescription or over-the-counter meds, then clothing. When you get to the end of the various categories you need, go back to the beginning, right? So remember, every 2 weeks, you're going to assign so many dollars and so much time to work on that, check that box for the week. Then the next paycheck comes, go to the next box you have to check, whatever that subject is, buy those items, check it off. Don't mess with the next box, don't mess with the previous box, focus on that one. You keep doing that systemically until you think you have enough to get through, say, a couple of weeks. I would set a goal and say, okay, I want a weekend's worth of batteries, food, and water. When you've got that, right, you got the batteries, you got the food, you got the water on 3 different paydays, now go back to the beginning. Okay, now I want a week's worth of lighting. Get propane and lights and batteries, then get more food on the next payday, then get the water, then get the medical, then go back to the beginning again. You kind of see what I'm saying. So what I'm basically alluding to is, you know how they used to tell us in kindergarten, how do you eat a dinosaur or an elephant, one bite at a time? That's what you're doing. But what you want to do is take a bite of the things that you know you will most likely need in the next year. Could World War III break out? Absolutely. Conceivably, yes. Could we have an alien invasion? Hypothetically. I'm not prepping for that because that probability is very low. And I could be wrong. Tomorrow they could be all over the place. But right now, no. That's how you get the most bang for your buck. After you've created enough for your base, you've set your time objective and you said, okay, I'm now prepared for 72 hours. Then you move to 2 weeks. Start at the beginning of the list, work your way down every payday, a little bit of each. And you may have to do a few rotations till you get your 2 weeks. Then you say, okay, now I want a month. And you just keep systemically doing that. That is how you prep on a budget, staying on budget without making yourself crazy. But you keep doing that, it helps you stay organized, it helps you stay on budget, it helps you from going crazy. Well, now when you're kind of in a comfortable place with your 80% likely scenarios, look at those. And I'll bet you anything, the stuff you got for the hurricanes and floods, you can still use for the riots, the Cloverfield monster, the aliens, etc. So now all of a sudden that 20% got really small, because in prepping for the most likely scenarios, you've also indirectly prepped for everything else. So again, just a recap going back, because this is kind of overlapping ideas. Look at all the situations that can happen and look at the ones that happen 80 to 90% of the time in your area. Prep for those. And then take the stuff you'll need 90% of the time in that situation. Like, okay, hurricanes will happen 80, 90% of the time on the coast. What do I need for hurricanes all the time when it happens? Food, water, batteries, etc., etc. Focus on those. When you set a timeline, say I want to have 3 days worth, then 2 weeks worth, then 2 months worth, and so on and so forth until you're comfortable. Then maybe every 6 months, look at the unlikely scenarios. Those 10 to 20% that really don't happen much in your area or unlikely to happen at all but could. And go, well, what do I need special for these guys? Because more than likely what you've bought for all of this will cover you for this 20%. So guys, I hope this helped. I hope it didn't confuse the crap out of everyone. And by the way, if I was unclear, shoot me an email, shoot me a note. I'm always happy to try and clarify and help you guys out. And again, be systemic, stay on plan, stay in a budget, don't have a heart attack, but don't get lazy. And I found I'm much less lazy when I have a checklist that I can check off and see where I am and what I've accomplished. In any case, guys, that's it for this one. God bless, Godspeed, and I hope this helped you out a little bit. And again, freaking out isn't going to help anyone. move on one piece at a time, and we're going to be fine. We got this. And if aliens do come down, then I may be adding a video to this one, but I'm not holding my breath on that. You guys be good. I'll see you later.